Evening all. How the devil? Everyone alright? What time is it? More or less on time. This is YouTube time. Tracy, Origami Pig, how are you doing? Kate, she's always here, how are you doing? Glenn, Jeff, Tony, Dominic, Keith, Tracy, anyone else I've missed? PB Awake, hello everybody. How was your weekend? Loads of mad shit happened this weekend, and I wanted to talk about it now. And then I've sat down, obviously I've been at work today, and I've sat down and thought, what was it that was pissing me off all weekend? And now I can't remember. Because obviously I filmed the BBC Spews before I bugger off on a weekend. And then I'm a bit annoyed because I missed stuff that obviously has been turned out to be a big story and I should have covered. So I was going to do a recap today, and now I can't think what was really pissing me off. Anyway, it'll come back to me, I'm sure, when I start waffling. But there was a lot of mad shit went on this weekend. I was sitting there watching the golf with my dad thinking, the world's gone mad, hasn't it? We're living in every sort of week. I say, world's gone mad. It's like Terry Fuckwit's running the entire planet at this point. And every week where you think you've got to the bottom of the barrel, we somehow pull new and miraculous ways of royally fucking things up out of our arseholes. It's almost like a talent. Like if I was to sit here with get 10 years around a big boardroom table and get the old spider diagram and start, right, ways to fuck the world up. Give me your ideas. And you started saying, just riffing, saying the maddest things ever. Like, every child who turns 5 has to nail the feet to the fucking bathroom floor twice a month. Like really weird stuff. Every husband should shove a dildo up his arse and fling himself off the roof twice a year. Like, if you were to just go riffing and just come up with mad shit, I feel like we couldn't come up with it. We couldn't come up with the things that these loonies come up with to what seems to me to be purposely ruin the world. Like, if you think of anything that would ruin the world, we go, yep, let's run with that. Like it's almost like there's a cat-stroking supervillain sitting around a table going, this has ruined the world. And our leaders go, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's tell little kids all the stuff that we've taught people you should do. We go, let's do the opposite. Do you know what I mean? Like, a really good example of that, just to pull one out my arse, a really good example of that is exercise. Like, ever since I was a little kid, we'd say, oh, make sure you do some exercise, or you should get your exercise. Now we do anti-fat shit. Now we do, like, fat shaming. Like, that's just one I've just pulled out my arse there. Like, don't you think that's a good example of what I'm talking about? Like, if I was to sit there and someone was to explain to me how the human body works, if I was like an alien, like Star Trek, and I'm an emissary from a long-distant planet where we don't have the same physiology, and we're solar powered. We're an advanced silicone-based life form that gets power from the solar system. Yeah, we just get the sun rays on our... We've got a skull-mounted solar panel, and that gives us all the energy we need. And I come to Earth, and I start learning about how humans work. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, so, your organs digest all of the sustenance, and you have to take that in orally. And then that feeds all the cells in your bodies. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and you do exercise because your heart's a muscle. Yeah, okay. And then I'd think, okay, you want me to tell you what I think you definitely shouldn't do? And they'd say, go ahead. And I'd say, you definitely shouldn't encourage people to be a big, manky, fat, saggy butterball that doesn't do any exercise, has to fucking roll to school, and sits on a couch, stuff in the face with shit all day. And if anybody tells them you shouldn't do that, then they call the person that said that to them literally Hitler. Yeah? Do that. Maybe don't do that. Right? There's a good one. We do the opposite of We do the opposite of what you would think anyone who's not a psycho would tell you to do. Critical race theory is another one. Like the 80s and the 90s, we spent the whole time. In fact, fuck it, longer back, right? Ever since before MLK, he popularised it. There was big civil rights people before him saying, like, you know what? We should always treat each other with respect. And we should try and forget about, trifling things like what we happen to look like, and really get into like what we think and what we act like, and maybe we should do that. And then last few years we've just gone like, oh yeah, you know what you should do? You should obsess over random things about what people are, and then stick your finger in that little hole and wiggle it until everybody fucking hates each other, And then what you should do is you should constantly bring up the past and constantly talk about all of the wrongs throughout history. Yeah, like, oh yeah, do you remember when the Genghis Khan killed your great granddad? You should be well pissed off about that. Go and kick fuck out of that bloke over there because he might be distantly related to someone that had something to do with it. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's fucking do it. I mean, we just do everything backwards. It's hard not to believe a supervillain is running the fucking show. The way I see it. It's just lunacy. Lunacy. Promoting hatred, intolerance and resentment. That's what we do now. All the time. Anyway. Shall we do some news? I'm riffing again. Before I do some news, I want to play this. Because I always listen to The Spectator, and I encourage anyone to do so. The Spectator is one of the few publications that I actually really do like. Even The Economist, which I used to subscribe to when I lived in York, even that has gone woke. Ever since I watched the interview between, what's her name? Kate, is it Kate something? And Jordan Peterson, the ginger Scottish bird. I thought, shit, The Economist's gone woke as well. So even The Economist's pretty shocking now. Like, how can The Economist have gone woke? The one thing we have established is that the woke don't know fucking anything about economics. They are terrible at economics. You might as well get a degenerate gambler, smackhead gigolo to run your family finances as someone who's woke. And The Economist's gone woke. Why are they even called The Economist anymore? If you're woke, you can't be called The Economist. Pick one. You can either be good with money or you can be woke. Nobody woke is good with money. They don't believe in private property. They want to seize the means of production and they fuck up the economy of everywhere they fucking go to and start invoking insane hiring policies like they're doing in California now. Or if you've got 9 executives, at least 4 of them have to be disabled lesbians. How's that going to help your bottom line? It's lunacy that The Economist's gone woke. That is mental. All you need to be good at to be an economist is fucking maths. And if you start going into insane postmodernist ideology, you don't know anything about economics. You're a lunatic. AOC's got AOC's got an education, apparently, in economics. So, if ever anyone's wanted to see proof, people like me, you know, we've been accused of being scornful of higher education because it's not worth anything anymore. AOC is living proof of it. I used to have this argument years ago with my wife's cousin and say, well, like, I remember arguing with her once, not really arguing, but debating at Thanksgiving. Because she said one of these quarterbacks, one of the black NFL dudes, you know, one of the loud, obnoxious ones who's, you know, got the bouncy car and the bitches and the whores. And I remember saying, like, these people are morons. Why do we put all the morons on a pedestal anymore? And she was like, oh, he's not a moron. He's got a college degree in, like, you know, physics or whatever. And I was like, that fuckwit's got a college degree in physics because they cheat every exam for them because they want them to play for the football team. Everybody knows this. The English know it. Apparently it escaped her. But I was like, the British know that in the United States they rig the exams for the athletes because they all want the athletes to play for the team. So if you're an absolutely fantastic, you know, anything, tennis player. I know a bloke who got a tennis scholarship. If you're going to win loads of tennis tournaments for the university, they couldn't give a flying fuck if you've got the IQ of a pull-along duck. They want you to play for the tennis team. You could be as light as a Candyman's balloon. You'll get whatever exam results you need to stay at that university. And that's not cynicism, that's reality. Money talks. I'm not even slagging them off. I'm not slagging them off. I understand, I'm a centrist in all things. I understand the need to have success at your football teams. I understand the advertising, the revenue it generates, everything. So I'm not even saying it's the worst thing in the world. Put them in the team and let them go through their exams. We all know that they're not earning it. That's fine. But don't tell me that the guy's a super genius, because he isn't. I'm happy with the fact that he's getting helped out because, you know, there's swings and roundabouts. It's understandable. I don't need to be convinced that he's a fucking genius. I'm cool with it. But don't tell me I should listen to the guy when I listen to him talk and he speaks like he's got a fucking Arctic sock in his mouth. The guy can barely pronounce a coherent sentence, and you're telling me he's some sort of physics guru. Stephen Hawking was a physics guru because he couldn't bastard run. He had to spend all day reading, didn't he? That's probably why he became a super genius, because he was sat in a chair all day, right? But don't tell me he's this fucking ridiculous, barely string a sentence together, muscle-bound sort of G-Dogs type bloke is some sort of paragon of education. Anyway, let's have a look at some chats. Matt, don't you have a master's in political theory? No, I don't have a master's in political theory. And I don't claim to be well educated. I've never told a lie. I don't tell lies. All I've got's like 4 GCSE. I did get an A in English literature, which everybody was surprised about in my school, because in Middlesbrough, not many people get A's. I got an A in English literature. I wrote about Romeo and Juliet, Lord of the Flies, and Of Mice and Men by Steinbeck, which sort of annoyed me as well, because it's all American. Why do we all learn? We didn't get much good English literature except a bit of Shakespeare. But you don't need to have a master's degree. You just need to, like I've said, I mean, this is what I've talked about with regards to the critical race theory stuff. You don't need to have a master's degree. All you need to do to have a reasonable, rational approach to racial issues is a fully functioning brain and empathy. You need to have an IQ over about 90, and you need to be empathic and feel bad for people when they get talked down to, you know. And I've got those things. I feel terrible for people when they get treated unfairly. There's something in a working class northern man that doesn't like to see unfairness like that, because you feel like you get judged by posh people. I feel like posh people hear me talk and think, this guy's thick as pig shit. So I've got a chip on my shoulder about it. So I don't think you should judge people, whatever they are, race, gender, sexuality, whatever stupid characteristic you come up with. But that's why I get annoyed about these lefty twats, because they're condescending. Like, you don't know anything about me just because of how I look or how I sound. You've got to give someone a chance to let the brain do the talking. And then you figure them out. And to me, you might as well, if you're going to start talking about people as if you know them just because they happen to be black or gay, well, you might as well do it if they're a bus driver. What's the difference? What's the difference? You're born, and you just are what you are. You look like you are. You just are. And you sound like you are because of the surroundings you're raised in. It tells you nothing about anybody. Nothing. Like I said, you might as well judge someone by the shoe size. And it annoys me when people do that. So I don't need to be lectured by some overeducated postmodernist who's got a head full of cow shit, because that's what it is. I would seriously take someone with just GCSEs over someone like AOC, who is an ideologue, who has had a head filled with horse shit, because everything they teach them is nonsense. They don't teach them to be critical of ideas. They teach them critical theory, which is a totally different kettle of fish. They don't teach them to think for themselves. They just teach them to spew this shit. Like, when I hear Matty B, you know, my fucking mate in the comments, when I hear him, 2 sentences in, I know what he thinks about everything. Everything. Any far left twat like Owen Jones, I know what they think about everything. They don't know what I think about everything, because I like to think I'm consistently questioning of everything. I can even have an argument with myself. I'm an argumentative bastard. I can even have an argument with myself. My missus said I should set up a table with, I will argue with you about anything, and I could fucking do it. Because if I meet some like MAGA hat, proper flag waving, mega Trump proper MAGA dude, I'll argue with him about what I think Bernie Sanders has got going for him. I think Bernie Sanders has got plenty of good points. He seems to have integrity. To me, he seems to really, really believe what he thinks. A lot of them, I don't think they believe what they think. I think they just say it because they're arseholes. Bernie Sanders has been Bernie Sanders for like 50 fucking years. So I believe he's misguided, but I believe he's very sincere. And I would argue on the side of Bernie Sanders with someone who's a hardcore Trump voter, but at the same time, when some left-wing wanker like Owen Jones starts talking total fucking nonsense, then I want to argue the case with him and say, what do you mean Trump's done this, Trump's done that? He hasn't. Trump's foreign policy was superb. Trump did really well with dealing with foreign leaders. Trump did fine with his immigration policy. There's nothing wrong with enforcing the border because you stitch up your own working class when you fuck. It's a proven, demonstrable fact that the biggest victims of this is the working class. That's what happened in Middlesbrough. When they let in 50,000 fucking immigrants from the third world, it was hard for the working class of Middlesbrough because they had to suddenly compete with people who have grown up really, really, really poor. And you can't have a go at them, right? Because everything's complicated, and that's why I can talk for 10 hours about this stuff. Because I'm always internally having an argument with myself. I'm like, yeah, but you can't have a go at the Polish, can you? If I was Polish, living in a shitty little village where the average wage was £2 an hour, I'd want to come to Middlesbrough. So even that, I'm round and round. Got to go through it all the time. Argue with yourself. That's what I do. And I consistently argue with myself. I'm not like Owen Jones. It depends on the issue. Just tonight I was thinking about that with regards to whether or not I'm conservative. On some things I'm very conservative. On some things I'm very liberal. It depends on the issue. You can't say the same for the left. They're fucking lunatics. Owen Jones, Afua Hirsch, they're psychos. They're ideologues. They don't know any fucking thing. They don't question anything. They never have an argument with themselves. Ever. They are true believers. They're like ISIS. You can't say ISIS aren't sincere. They blow themselves up because they think they're going to get fucking 99 virgins. Don't realise they get 99 mother-in-laws as well, right? They're sincere. Any man willing to blow himself up is sincere. If you're a true believer, then what's the point in even having an argument with them? Fucking lunatics. They don't have an argument with themselves. Anyway, I'm waffling. I was supposed to do some news. I do want to do this. Let me play you this, which I was going to do 10 minutes ago. How much of an absolute chopper this weasel, this absolute human toilet, this walking Elson sloshing his blue juices all over the main drag, an oxygen thief of the highest order, Andrew Adonis, never voted into any position in his life, just given power by Tony Blair, the butcher of Baghdad. Listen to this here. Listen to Andrew Neil absolutely torturing him. I hope the sound's on.
Going to be the member states, because they're the ones who know these companies best and are closest to them. And my own view, if I'd been in government a year ago, is that we should have opted out of any EU procurement programme, which we had the powers to do. So on that one, I'm glad to say I've been consistent all the way through.
Oh, hold on. You said...
So just see him smug there. And on that one, I'm happy to say I've been consistent all the way through. You lying bastard. They will just lie to your face. What these politicians don't understand is that the world's changed. Like Biden and them, especially Biden, they still think, because he's used to campaigning decades ago, he still thinks, right? Because think about it, like think how it worked in... Sorry, I'll put the volume up a little bit. They still think it's like... Fuck me, because Biden's like mum rather ever living. When did he get into politics? About the 1950s. They still think they can go to like Vermont and they can talk shit. Biden still thinks he can go to Vermont. Yes, I'll turn the volume up, guys, I've heard. I've heard you. They still think they can go to Vermont and say, I'm not against guns. I'd never do that, right? And then they can fly, because, you know, everybody else isn't flying around. They can fly a few states over and go to Oregon, and they'll go, oh yeah, I think the exact fucking opposite of what I've just told a bunch of people literally yesterday. And they still think they can get away with it. Because back in the day, what you're going to do? Like, seriously, back in the day when there was fucking 4 channels on the TV and everyone had a wired phone in their house, how are you going to find out about it? But now, they can't do it because of the internet, because of instant global communication like this. Just do it. I can talk to you in Texas, half a second. How you doing? It's that easy. And these clueless fuckwits that we call the morons that run our countries, they don't realise that the time's caught up with them. So Andrew Adonis there, I'll replay it because the volume was low. Andrew Adonis there thinks he can just blatantly lie and we won't know, because he thinks he can just go into a room full of people, like Clinton when she said you have to have a public and a private persona, like the very definition of a barefaced lie. She's basically saying there, what you have to do is you have to fucking lie to the morons that make up the general public, isn't she? That is exactly what she said. Like, oh, you have to lie to the plebs. Of course you do. That is what she's saying. That's not me paraphrasing. That's what she's saying. Just lie to them. Just fucking lie to them. Tell them what they want to hear and then come in this room and tell you the exact opposite. And they still think they can get away with it. And they can't. So just watch this. I'll put it back to him being smug and going, I'm glad I was always consistent there. Yeah, you baldy bastard. Listen to what he says. Look at his smug face and watch Andrew Neil fucking torture him.
These companies best and are closest to them. And my own view, if I'd been in government a year ago, is that we should have opted out of any EU procurement programme, which we had the powers to do. So on that one, I'm glad to say I've been consistent all the way through.
Oh, hold on. You said that the British vaccine rollout would lead to billions of corrupt contracts and the supply and distribution would be a fiasco.
No, that's not correct. I haven't said that.
Look, he's like, hang on. No, I definitely didn't say that. Definitely didn't say that. No, I never said that. Oh, you didn't, did you? Well, pray tell, continue.
Yes, I've got the tweet here on November the 11th. You tweeted out, it now looks as if the vaccine is going to lead to billions of corrupt contracts and jobs for friends and relations of ministers like PPE and Tess and Trey, making...
Look, it's even time-stamped. Drew, you absolute throbber. You earthworm Jim. You fucking absolute shitbag. How bad's that? He's like, nah, I never said that. It's time-stamped. It says 8:36 a.m. November 11th, 2020. What do you mean you didn't say it? Still too low. Christ on a bike. What about now? All right, this is the last time I'll play it, and then we'll talk about something more sensible.
And potential sources of production were going to be the member states, because they're the ones who know these companies best and are closest to them. And my own view, if I'd been in government a year ago, is that we should have opted out of any EU procurement programme, which we had the powers to do. So on that one, I'm glad to say I've been consistent all the way through.
Look at there, smug wanker. Yeah, anyway, so he wasn't consistent all the way through. He's a lying rat bastard. So just unbelievable, innit? And then he's there looking smug, and then you get a timestamp tweet. So cheers easy. Cheers easy. Cheers easy. Andrew, get in the sea. Get in the sea. You're a liar. You lying bastard. And I love the way he goes, whoa. Timestamp tweet. And then he's like... Then it looks like someone's just jammed 2 fingers up his arse. He goes... Yeah. It's like... Smug. Timestamp tweet. Like he's just sat on a fucking Cadbury's picnic. A particularly knobbly Cadbury's picnic. A king-size one, not like them little shitty ones you get now. Have you seen how small picnics are nowadays? Anyway. So that just made me laugh. Be sure to check that out. That's a great interview. Fucking Spectator. Andrew Neil tortures him. What a chopper. Anyway, let's do at least a bit of BBC, right? Yeah, Maggie, consistent all the way through. Really? Really? It does stagger me that they'll even say it. Like, it's unbelievable, isn't it? That they'll even say it. How do you sleep at night when you're that much of a scumbag? When you're that two-faced? They're just... So look at this one. Let's move on from Andrew. Love a picnic bar. I do, yeah. You know why? Because Pusser, that's the military. You get issued picnic bars. So I've got a soft spot for a picnic. When you're threaders in the middle of the woods and you haven't had anything up other than cowled rations for 3 days, it's good for your morale to whip a picnic out. What's that? He'd love 2 fingers. Yes, he definitely would. Fruit and nut bars lost weight, but still the same price. Shocking. Freddo, when I was a kid, they were 5 pence. Christ, I'm turning into my granddad. Doesn't that happen quick? You turn into your granddad. I'm only 41. Why am I talking like my granddad? Yeah, they are small though. 5 pence. Now the 25 pence and the littler. So yeah, done there, Andrew Dons. This I want to talk about, right? Rape culture. So this is linked to postmodernist critical theory nonsense. It is. It is. They're not wrong when they talk about the intersectionality umbrella, because all of this bollocks is addressed by the usual suspects of far left, toxic, poisonous ideology that spells the death knell for any formerly pleasant civilization. It's all linked because it's all ways of undermining the power of what they see as being the power structures in any Western country. And they're obsessed with power, aren't they? Power, power, power. That's all they talk about. They think everything's power. Everything. A husband's only providing for his wife because it's a power dynamic. Everything's a power dynamic. No, some people are just arseholes. And when I'm telling you you're an arsehole, it's not because of power. It's just because you're a twat. They think everything's down to power. Oh, you're the foreman in the factory. You're just abusing your power. No, what if the guy who's an absolute fucking chopper who's working for me is just... They're not workable in real world situations, this fucking drivel. And it's self-evident. Like I said, you don't need to have a degree in political science or whatever fancy university you want to go to. You just have to have common sense. And the common sense here that most normal working class women who haven't been to a university and had their head filled with horse shit know for a fact that no aspect of our society glorifies and promotes rape. And I've got plenty of women in the chat here. Must be because I'm a handsome devil, right? A prematurely balding handsome devil. Although not, probably not prematurely balding, right? If you're 41, you're allowed to start going a bit thinner on top, aren't you? 41, I don't think that's prematurely balding. That's probably natural balding. Plenty of women in the chat. Tell me, do you think you can say with a straight face? I'm assuming the women in the chat following me haven't got a degree in some postmodernist fucking claptrap. They haven't read Michel Foucault, the kiddie fiddler from France. Umbongo, I did make a video with Umbongo in once. They drink it in the Congo. You know, they used to brag. In the 80s, they were always bragging about their Umbongo, and then they started whinging a few years later about, having a drought. And I just thought, drink your Umbongo. Why aren't you drinking the Umbongo? He used to gob off all the time about Umbongo. Look at us. We they might be dying in Ethiopia, but we're all right. We've got our Umbongo. A few years down the line, they're all whinging, drought. Drink the Umbongo, lads. Probably can't put Umbongo on your crops, though, so maybe that's what it is. I bet you can't pour, what is it, pineapple, mandarin, guava, loads of stuff in Umbongo. Can't put that on, cabbage. Probably wouldn't do it any favours. But yeah, what I'm getting at is normal women who live normal lives and have a normal education know that we don't live in a society that promotes rape. It's so self-evident to anyone that's spent any real time in the real world and isn't a fucking idiot that it's a fiction. But because of this critical theory, they managed to twist everything round on its head and tell you up is down and left is right, and then cram it straight through the ear of these impressionable students. They will sit there with a straight face and say, we live in a society that promotes rape. And it's like, well, I've been on this earth for 40 years, and I don't, well, all right, a bit less, because I'm thinking, what do you remember? Probably about 36. Don't remember much about being 2. I've never once read or seen anything in my entire life, because I'm not from some third world place where women are property. I've not once seen anything ever that promotes rape. Ever. Like, I learnt from the age of about 7 that girls have got the right to tell you to fuck off, and you're not allowed to pester them in the playground. Catchy kissy. They can tell you to fuck off. And you have to respect that. And when you have a tough working class mother and a tough working class grandmother, well, 2 of them, they teach you it as well. And they say, you know, you treat women with respect. Probably you get a bat in the mouth where I'm from, but maybe other places, or they'll tell you to fuck off. You know this. I don't think I've ever seen anything in my entire life that you would say was pro-rape. Ever. Only in the countries that I visited when I was in the military, and I can't mention them countries by name because the YouTube Stasi will go, fucking hell, he's being intolerant, because facts are intolerant. So I won't mention them, but you guys know where I've seen action. Yeah, in the 5 tours of duty that I've done. Anyone who's watched me talk with Chris Thrall, I've gobbed off about my military career quite a lot. I don't like to swing the lantern too much about it, to be honest, because you guys know me. This is a comical, political channel, not a military channel. I don't want to go down the easy click route like, oh yeah, Royal Marine reacts to arsehole. The fact that I was a Royal Marine is incidental. The main reason I picked the channel name Angry Bootneck is because I am a bootneck and I can draw cartoon bootnecks. Like, I spent large amounts of my military career drawing cartoon bootnecks for people, whether it was caricatures, greeting cards, fucking signs for company lines or shops. I remember drawing a sign for Buck, the quartermaster, in one of the outstations, and he had, like, you know, he was holding up a young Marine by his waist and beating him senseless with a plank with a nail through the end. That's the only reason I picked Bootneck for my thing, really, because I've got a lot of artwork ready to go. So I don't gob off too much about the military thing. But places I've been where they glorified rape were not in the West. Never. Not in England. Even not in France. And those kinky devils can get a bit much for us quaint English people. So it just doesn't exist. And this story says, more than 8,000 allegations have now been made by school pupils on a website gathering testimonies of sexual violence and abuse. Rape culture was a problem for all schools, said Soma Sara, founder of the Everyone's Invited website. Even the website's got a commie name, eh? Everyone's Invited. The We're All the Same website. Like, many of the perpetrators are claimed to be at the same school or in the same social groups. Norfolk Chief Constable Simon Bailey blamed the volume of pornographic material that's being consumed. Fuck off. So then, like I said, thinking critically about shit. Now I'm siding with the lefties, right? Because that's a conservative thing. That's the type of thing Peter Hitchens would say. And I don't agree with that. I don't believe that just because there's more pornography out there, it's making more men into rapists. I don't believe it, because if you get raised properly by a strong mother and a good family and from a good home, you know that pornography is just something some people watch because that's what they're into. At no point did I ever watch porn. And when I was a teenager, it was bush porn. Right, we used to go and play armies in the woods, and you'd be like, and then you go, pa-cow, 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 and then you jump in a bush, and you go, what's this? And then you trip over like a casually discarded duffel bag, and you go, and you have a look through it, and it's full of grumble mags, and you go, ooh, what's this? To your 10-year-old eyes, and then you pull out a copy of 40 Plus, and you go, fuck me, what's going on there? Or you pull out a copy of Asian Babes and go, Jesus Christ, is that Peter Sutcliffe's beard between her legs? That was my introduction to pornography, being a kid plain armies in the 80s, right? We didn't have the ubiquitous internet pornography that they have now. But we did trip over grumble mags quite regularly. Weird how bush porn's vanished now, hasn't it, because of the internet? So kids will no longer have... Well, they don't play armies anymore. They play armies on the Xbox, and they'll never ever find any discarded bush porn ever again. It's quite sad. It's a sad thing to happen. And you know, the other good thing about bush porn was it was really new when you were like 10 years old. You'd never seen a set of beef curtains when I was 10. And then suddenly you trip over a bag full of discarded porn because nobody wanted to put it out in the recycling or whatever. Because the bin men would be like, "Way!" on your drive. like your elderly neighbour's putting his milk out, and the next thing there's fucking 6 bin men crowding round a copy of Reader's Wives next to your car. So you're like, oh shit, I better casually discard it in a duffel bag and ditch it down the woods for the kids to read. And no one had even seen one before. There's about 10 of us. I remember the first time we ever found a bag of Grundy mags in a casually discarded bag, and nobody had even seen it before. I remember being like, what's this? And then, you know, my mate Snell's looking through it, and I was like, let me have a look. And then I was like, yeah, looks like a yawning hippopotamus. And I was like, what the fuck? But there was always one kid who looked a bit haunted, and you could tell he'd seen it before. Yeah, there was always one kid who was like pale, had a few bruises on him, and he'd definitely seen a bit of filth. But most of us, yeah, those without the cold, distant look in our eyes, we'd never seen any porn before. And we would see these things and find these things, but it didn't make us think you could mistreat women. Like, I don't agree with the Conservatives on that. Like, do you really think that because kids see more pornography that they're more likely to be a rapist? That doesn't sit well with me, and I'm probably siding with the far left there. I think if your parents raise you properly, and your grandparents pitch in, and you come from a good home, which is a Conservative element I agree with, and you come from a good home and you have a mother and a father, or even 2 fathers or 2 mothers, right? I'll meet you halfway there. And you get taught and educated, you can look at pornography. It doesn't mean you think women are property. It doesn't mean you think you can... You don't look at a bit of tits online and then go, you know what, I can own a woman like a fucking lampshade. It's like it doesn't make any sense to me. So I suppose, like I keep saying, both camps, they get it wrong. Somewhere in the middle is where we want to be meeting, meshing these things. And where that meets is obviously, I don't think pornography makes you a rapist and is a bad thing. And if you're a kinky French fucker, you can watch pornography. But at the same time, I do believe a family unit's vitally important. So that's where I'm siding with the Conservatives. There's a balance there. It's not good, maybe, to have ubiquitous porn absolutely everywhere. But you need a family. You need a good upbringing. And then you're fine. You don't think women are property. You don't think you can mistreat women. But it's not about banning and silencing anything, I don't think. But like I said, I'm in the middle there. Anyway, I'll crack on. I went on a massive rant about bush porn there, which wasn't planned. Wasn't supposed to talk about tripping over bags of grumble mags, but this is where you go when you listen to the Angry Bootneck stream. He gets angry and he talks fucking nonsense. It's fine. Anyway, there's an erosion of an understanding of what normal sexual relationships look like, said the National Police Chief's Council on Child. And that erosion is due to shitty parenting. It's due to being raised by Netflix and spending too much time on the internet because your shitty parents, if you're lucky enough to have to, don't give a fuck. Conservative people, back to the Conservative side now, Conservative people seem to really revere and respect a family unit, a mother, a father, spending some time with your dad. Dad to show you how to fly the kite. Mum take you out to walk the dog. Talk with each other, spend time with each other, learn things from your parents, learn things from your grandparents. It's not an erosion of understanding what normal sexual relationships look like. Fuck me. I seen a Max Hardcore video when I was about 17 for a couple of minutes when, I don't know, I think I was a recruit or whatever, and someone's showing me, and I'm like, fucking hell. It's called like Fists of Fury, and he's like lubed up going for it with both arms, and it was like, Jesus. And you sort of see that and go, there's some sick freaks in the world, and that's more for like comedy value. Like, it didn't make me think, when I get married one day, I want a nice white picket fence, 2 kids and a dog and Fists of Fury. Get in. That's what I'm going to fucking town. I didn't think that. It's not. You don't see porn and think that's normal sexual. You don't. Grab her by the fucking head. I didn't, on my wedding night, I didn't go, well, I've read a few jazz mags in my time. Grab it by the face, throw it over a bread crate and fucking bang it till its head falls off. I didn't think that. No, and I've seen pornography quite a lot, pulled myself off quite a lot when I was a teenager. Don't think that's how you treat women. So, all right, Paz, how you doing? Your ex is taking you to court for the time you binned her prosthetic legs. She hasn't got a leg to stand on. The old chestnut, eh? That reminds me of a good one I heard about Heather Mills. Remember the one Paul McCartney married? It was something like, what was it? It was like a rhyme. It was like, my hands were all a quiver. I undone her suspender belt and her leg fell in the river. We all knew she was fucking awful as well, didn't we? Rotten's in as well. How are you doing? So yeah, I don't agree with that. I suppose Paz and Rotten could chip in here. I'm basically saying that I disagree with the Conservatives on this part of this story. I don't believe that kids seeing more pornography is the root cause of, if it exists, slightly higher sexual assault figures. The root cause is shitty parents doing a terrible job of raising the kids. Watching pornography never made me want to grab a woman by the fucking face. I don't believe it's a thing. The root cause is do a better job raising your kids. Maybe. And the second thing I would say to contest what this shitty story is saying is, do you even believe that? Do you believe that in 2021 that the amount of rape and sexual assault is higher than it used to be a few decades ago even? Do you really think it's higher? Do you think young men who were raised in this day and age by a good family, do you think they're more likely to be rapists than they probably were 20 or 30 years ago? I don't think so. I think we've done a really good job of educating young people to not treat people like shit. I don't believe, because if you do believe that, you would have to assume we're in the same barrel of piss with every socially liberal principle, right? You would have to say, do you honestly think that we're more racist now than we were 30 years ago? Because I don't. Do you think we've got worse on any of the big metrics for how we should treat people? Do you really think 2021's worse than 1981? Yes, Julie, I think the headline's BS true. It's nonsense. We don't live in a rape culture. We don't teach young men that women are trash. Not in the West. We don't teach people to be bigoted and prejudiced. And even, dare I say it, pasty, white, somewhat emotionally stunted bootnecks like me, even I don't treat people like shit. I don't think it's acceptable to racially abuse and harass people because you don't have to have lived experience, you just have to have empathy. And I know what it's like to be bullied and picked on. Told you, when I was a little kid, some fucker said to me, who cares if your stupid mum dies? When my mother was dying. That upset me. And I know what it's like to be upset, and I know what it's like to feel small and bullied, and that's all you need. These critical race arseholes say, oh yeah, well, you're not a short, disabled Muslim lesbian with a hair lip, therefore you can't ever know what it's like to be a short, disabled Muslim lesbian with a hair lip. You don't need to be. You don't need to be any of those things. You just need to have empathy. You need to be understanding. You need to be willing to give someone a fucking cuddle when they need one and say, are you all right? I heard what that person said to you. What a wanker. I'll buy you a cup of tea. That's what you need. You don't need this shit. You don't need critical race theory, postmodernism. You have to have lived experience. It's bullshit. You don't need lived experience in fuck all. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I don't know what it's like to be sexually assaulted, but I guarantee I could do a good job comforting a young woman who's been sexually assaulted. Because I have empathy and a fully functioning brain. And I would say, I bet that was fucking awful. Awful. Is there anything I can possibly do for you? I wouldn't say, hey, shows what you're pissed with, darling. No, because I'm not a fucking idiot. And I don't need to be black to understand what it's like to be fucking racially abused. I know what it's like. It's shit. It's shit. So don't come up with this fucking nonsense. Like I said, they're killing our society by, it's the death by 1,000 cuts. They're making everybody bitter and resentful and angry and divide themselves into camps and fucking get wound up with each other. And like I keep saying, joking aside, I'm obviously taking the piss a lot, but you've got to reject the bitterness. You can't start dividing yourselves up just because they want us to. If you would happen to meet a militant, whether it's a radical jihadi type or a militant racial supremacist or something, you can't respond to it by doing it back. When Anthony Joshua says, don't shop in their businesses, well, Anthony Joshua's been a bit of a dickhead. Don't think the right thing to do is to start doing it yourself. And, you know, again, in Middlesbrough, we have a great harmony here. Because in Middlesbrough, we shop wherever's fucking cheapest. We don't go, oh, hang on, the bloke who runs that shop's from Eritrea. No, we just go, who's the cheapest fucker, right? That's a meritocracy right there. That's a meritocracy right there. That's brilliant. Who's the cheapest fucker? It's way better than this racial, militant, religious supremacy. Just reject it. So this shit I hate. It's leading us to an awful place. I don't believe it. I don't believe we've normalised. Again, I hate the word. They all use the same shit dictionary, don't they? Normalising. We've normalised sexual violence. Oh my God, it's terrible. Now we think, it's like the kids now, they think just fisting a woman till her head falls off. It's the same as putting the milk out. We don't think that. We don't. We've never normalised sexual violence. Fucking Oscar the Grouch doesn't jump out of the trash can and go, hey kids, fist some girls today. It doesn't happen. We don't promote it. Teenagers wank themselves silly. So what? They don't promote raping people. Fuck me. Normalising sexual violence. 40 fucking years of being, well, again, didn't start wanking quite that early. 30 years, pulling myself off. In fact, no, I really need to narrow this margin down because I'm making myself sound like a sex pest. Don't do much wanking now. I'm old and married. Didn't do much wanking when I was under the age of about 10. But I've got experience. Probably a solid 15, 20 years of pulling the fucking head off it. And at no point did I think it was acceptable to rape, pillage and run amok like a fucking Viking in the 8th century. Right? I didn't think that. Never, not once. It's bollocks. We don't normalise sexual violence. We don't have a rape culture. It doesn't exist. We don't hate women. We don't think you should mistreat women. We don't think you should be violent towards anybody for no reason, let alone the fairer sex. So it's bollocks. If anything, we normalise male-on-male violence, because every single man I know would probably be more comfortable punching a man's face in than a woman's. Fucking hell, you can't go for a walk in Borough without someone taking a swing for you. It's the chewiest town I've ever been to. But we don't normalise violence against women. Blokes, maybe. Did you spill my pint? Bam. It's as easy as that when you're a fella. But we don't treat women that way. Gavin Williams said, oh yeah, here we go. Soy boy, Williamson. Oh, no school, he's buying in. See, he's buying in with the lefties. Oh yeah, we do have a rape culture. No school should be fucking encouraging sexual abuse. No, they don't encourage it, you silly bastard. They don't. And I also hate the way they always have to... Don't you... This really annoys me. It really annoys me that they always feel like they have to put in what their opinion is about stuff that we know is bad anyway. It even annoyed me when I was listening to Rod Liddle, who's one of my favourite journos. He's a Borough lad, or his family is. Because he was talking about Sarah... Was it Everard who got... Sarah Everard who got killed, murdered. Obviously we know murder's the worst thing ever. The worst thing fucking ever. Like, ever. Like, that's the worst thing that can happen to you, right? It is the worst thing that can happen to you. Worse than getting mugged, worse than getting raped. Like if someone said to me, listen, Matty, what I can do is I can bend you over this kitchen table and bum you senseless, or I can chop your fucking head off. I think I'd pick the buggering. Thank you very much. I would. So we know murder is terrible. I don't like the way we always have to say every sentence now. Have you noticed when you watch the news nowadays? Because everyone plays this disgusting political game where you're just trying to stitch people up all the time. They always go, oh yeah, the horrific, monstrous, terrible murder of Sarah Everard, and then they start talking about it again. Don't you think that's annoying? Like, you shouldn't have to always put in 3 or 4 fucking setup words before you get into the picture. Any victim of these sickening acts, you could just say any victim of these acts. Like, we know it's sickening, Gavin. You don't have to keep ramming it home. Every time they talk about Sarah, like, oh my God, the horrific, despicable, untimely, awful, torturous murder. Yeah, we know murder's fucking awful. And you stop going on about it and get to the meat of the conversation, which is let's try and stop fucking murders. Politicians are all the same. It's all about making themselves look good. They're not interested in fixing problems. They're interested in how it makes them look. And it pisses me off. But so Gavin's a soy boy, and he jumped on it and said, yeah, we need to stop that happening because he's a twat. Universal problem. It's a universal problem. The behaviour's normalised. It's normalised. All the time. Sexual harassment, groping at a Christmas party, image-based abuse, revenge porn, non-consensual sharing of intimate photos, and just general sexism and misogyny. Yeah. So all of that just makes you want to chop people up. Yeah. Definitely. Groping at a Christmas party. If you once got drunk and embarrassed yourself, because it is embarrassing because you're acting like a twat, if you got drunk once and pinched a girl's ass when she walked past you, well, you're basically the same as Ted Bundy, aren't you? If you ever just act general sexism and misogyny, just general, if you once wolf whistled a girl when you were working on a building site, well, you're more or less Fred West. You're more or less Fred West. Of course you are. Of course you are. Yeah. You and Ian Huntley are pretty much kindred spirits because you once said, get your baps out at the football match. Yeah. The St. John's ambulance girl walked on the pitch and you said, get your tits out for the lads. You're basically Hitler. Yeah. Of course you are. Of course you are. And that is proof that every man in Britain is basically a rapist. A penis-wielding oppressor of the worst kind. So there you go. Rape culture is a universal problem. It's everywhere, in all schools, all universities, and all society. Who the fuck's that militant? That is militant out the Viz. Do you guys know who militant is? I know it's a northern thing, Viz, predominantly. Let's see if I can find a good picture of militant. There she is. Where's it? Look, men are beasts. That's a good one. That is militant, that. Men are beasts. So that's who obviously wrote this piece. Men are beasts, militant. The militant lesbian. I like her earrings as well, that's quality. It's just shocking. The whole story's fucking nonsense. Call out behaviour. Oh God, just Sakia Starmer weighed in. Cultural change in terms of behaviour in our schools, in our young people, but also in respect that it's shown particularly for women and girls. It doesn't exist. So there we go. I waffled for fucking hell nearly an hour about that shit. School abuse, rape culture warning. No, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. If you think that there's more rape, more hatred towards women, more abuse in England in 2021, Saudi Arabia called, they want you to go and pay them a visit. If you think watching a bit of pornography now and then basically turns you into a fucking penis-wielding oppressor with a hatchet and a punch-on for buggery, you are living in a fantasy land. Men don't deserve this bullshit. It's just more identity politics. Thinly veiled identity politics. Men should hate women, women should hate men. Black men should hate white men should hate Asian men. Everyone should hate each other. Gays should hate straights. The L's and the G's probably shouldn't like the B's and the T's. It's fucking cancer. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. It's raise your kids properly, educate them properly. If you catch your 12-year-old son pulling himself off, you don't need to say, oh my God, he's a phallocrat. It doesn't mean he's going to chop a fucking woman up and put a fucking head in the freezer. Have a chat with him about why you get a sexual urge. It's evolutionary biology. Tell him it's perfectly ordinary, and then tell him to have a chat with his mum about why it's important to treat women with respect and dignity. And say, you know why? Because when you get married, you want a wife that's a good, nice wife who loves you because you're nice to her. You don't want to rule by fear. You don't want to be doing what you tell her all the time. You want to have someone who can challenge you intellectually. My missus loves an argument. We like a long debate. She's a fucking great spouse because I'm a fucking good husband. And I'm nice to her. And I don't slap her about, and we like to have lengthy conversations about interesting things, and I help her and she helps me, and that's what leads to a happy wife and a happy life and a good society. That's what you do if you catch your son pulling himself off. You don't fucking pull a militant, lock him in a cupboard under the stairs for fucking 8 weeks to stop him from going out and chopping up a Romanian prostitute. Fuck me. Why do I have to point these things out? I don't even have kids. Raise your own fucking kids, weirdo BBC freaks. I want to know what these mutants do to their children. Like, whoever wrote that fucking shit or come out with that nonsense sentence, I feel sorry for her fucking boy. Where is it? I've lost it now. In fact, fuck them. I don't care. I'm finished. But I feel sorry for their kids. If you're a woman who believes in all this intersectional claptrap, I feel sorry for your kids. If you have a son, he's going to end up fucked in the head. Because they just hate men. And the natural things that men do. Men have destructive tendencies, but they also have great tendencies. Men may have more physical strength than women, but they use that strength for good. They protect their wives and their daughters and they care about them. That's why the Spartans went and died, to keep the families safe, the women and the children, because they're stronger than them and they can take it. It's not because they're fucking evil and abusive and it's all about power. Fuck off, communist. You don't know what you're talking about. Your theory is nonsense. Every part of it is bullshit, and anyone with an IQ above about 90 can see it 10 miles away. It's bullshit. Critical theory, postmodernism. Michel Foucault, by the way, turns out today it was in the news. He was a pedo and a nonce, because obviously he was. That's why these people virtue signal all the time, because when you're a scumbag, you have to go on about how good you are, don't you? When you're like me and you're a little bit politically incorrect, but you actually treat people with respect, you can make the occasional, sexist joke, make an occasional quip that someone might say proves you're Hitler, proves you're a bigot, proves you're prejudiced. You can let your guard down when you're a normal person like me, because you're not a walking toilet. The ones who shout the loudest about how good and decent and moral they are the fucking worst people on earth. They always are. Virtue signalling. Lazy virtue signalling. If you're like me, you're not interested in fucking virtue signalling. I'll spend my time on Twitter telling jokes that are a bit edgy. And then you can go, oh my God, you're awful, you. You're evil. Because I don't worry about it. Because I let my actions speak louder than my words. And you'll never get me up on a fucking rape charge. You'll never get me arrested for any of the mad shit all these social justice warriors are getting busted for. Have you seen how many Twitter feminists have been getting arrested? Male feminists. They're like endemic. Or Justin Trudeau. I've never once put blackface on in my entire life. All the jokes and piss taking that I do, never once. I wouldn't dream of it. It's fucking insensitive. Justin Trudeau, the virtuous Justin Trudeau, has got a fucking blackface fetish. He's had more boot polish on than a pair of Paris boots in the Falklands War. He is constantly polished up, that fucker. So, there's a good example of what I'm talking about. There's a good time to end. Some practical advice from everybody listening. Ladies, if a man signals his virtue to you in public or in private, get the fuck out, yeah? Smash the window, jump out. If you're on a Tinder date and he goes, I just care about women, man. I just care about women's rights, yo. Fucking crack the window, jump out. Go for a drink with a fucking bus driver who's never once mentioned it to you, yeah? If he's went, oh, she's got a canny set on her, go fucking have a drink with him. Because you'll be less likely to get fisted, I'm telling you. Anyway, that's that. Talk far too long about that, but it gets my goat. I think it's toxic. I think it's poisonous for the continued harmony of women and men of all cultures, races and creeds, the continued fruition of the Western world, and basically everything that makes our society noble and just and decent. We need to cultivate that thing in men that makes us feel protective and value our women folk. Not convince them all that men are fucking evil because they watch too many fucking dirty movies. It's ridiculous. There you go, Charles. He's probably a splendid fella. I'm an horrible bastard. Fancy a shag? That is a fucking great pickup line. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Always a good crack. I do enjoy an hour talking complete shit into the ether. Thanks for watching. Like it, subscribe it, buy me a pint, whatever you like. Don't do any of that. Fuck off and come back tomorrow. I will still talk to you. I'm not a judgmental man. I'm not. Not really. Not really. Right. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll talk to you all very soon. Whoever mentioned going on the piss in Nottingham, we will do that. When they let us out, I will meet people for a pint in Nottingham. I'm a social butterfly. I don't think everybody on the internet is going to be a rapist. And I'll come and meet you as long as I, guard my drink quite aggressively. Right? See you all very soon.